In the quiet depths of trance, where time folds upon itself and the boundaries between past and present dissolve, I, Edgar Cayce, discovered a truth that has remained veiled for centuries. The man known to the world as Jesus of Nazareth had a brother, not merely in the sense of spiritual kinship that binds all souls, but a blood relation whose existence reshapes our understanding of the Holy Family. This revelation came not from speculation or interpretation, but directly from the Akashic records, that cosmic library containing the soul experiences of every living being throughout time. Before we continue, drop a quick "hi" in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The gift of accessing universal consciousness was not one I sought, but rather one that found me. From my humble beginnings in Kentucky to becoming known as the Sleeping Prophet, my journey has been guided by a singular purpose: to help others heal and find their divine path. During my lifetime, I gave over 14,000 psychic readings while in a self-induced sleep state. Through this unconscious channel, I could access information seemingly impossible to obtain through ordinary means: medical diagnoses for the ill, glimpses of past lives, and revelations about ancient civilizations, including the life and times of Jesus Christ. When discussing the family of Jesus, most biblical scholars focus on Mary, Joseph, and later mentions of brothers and sisters that some traditions interpret as cousins or step-siblings. But the records I accessed revealed a more complex family structure than commonly understood. Jesus had a brother of blood relation, a sibling whose existence adds profound dimension to the story of Christianity's founder. The Akashic records showed me that this brother was close to Jesus during his formative years. Their relationship was not merely familial, but deeply spiritual. This brother witnessed the unfolding of Jesus' divine awareness from a unique vantage point, that of someone who shared the same household, the same parents, and yet observed the unmistakable difference in his siblings' connection to the divine source. Many have asked me how I can be certain of such information when it seems absent from canonical texts. My answer remains consistent. The information does not come from me, but through me. In my trance state, I became a conduit for knowledge stored in what I called the universal consciousness, or the Akashic records. These records contain every thought, word, and action that has ever occurred. They exist outside of physical reality, yet are accessible to those whose consciousness can attune to their vibration. The brother of Jesus, according to my readings, was not simply a bystander to greatness. He played a crucial role in preserving certain teachings that were considered too esoteric for general dissemination. While Jesus taught openly to the multitudes, there were deeper mysteries he shared only with his closest disciples and family members. His brother became a guardian of some of these teachings, particularly those dealing with the development of spiritual gifts and the soul's journey through multiple incarnations. This revelation may seem shocking to those who follow traditional Christian doctrine, but it aligns perfectly with what my readings consistently revealed about the nature of Jesus' mission. He came not to establish a religion that would separate humanity into believers and non-believers, but to demonstrate the potential divinity within each soul. The presence of a brother who witnessed this mission from its earliest moments adds a powerful testimonial element to the story, one who could attest to both the humanity and divinity of the Christ. The records showed me that this brother was present during crucial moments of Jesus' life, though often in the background. He was there in Nazareth as Jesus grew in wisdom and stature. He observed the remarkable conversations between the young Jesus and religious scholars. He witnessed the gradual awakening of divine consciousness in his brother, watching with a mixture of awe and familial concern as Jesus began to understand his extraordinary purpose. What makes this relationship particularly significant is how it illuminates the human experience of Jesus. Through his brother's eyes, we can glimpse Jesus not just as the Christ, but as a son, a sibling, a family member navigating the ordinary aspects of daily life while carrying an extraordinary spiritual awareness. This perspective humanizes Jesus without diminishing his divine nature. It shows that divinity can and does manifest within the context of human relationships and family bonds. The brother of Jesus, according to my readings, was profoundly influenced by witnessing his brother's life and teachings. After the crucifixion, he became one of the quiet but essential pillars of the early Christian community. Not seeking prominence or authority, he nevertheless carried within him an intimate understanding of Jesus' message that few others possessed. His contributions to the preservation and transmission of Jesus' teachings were substantial, though largely unrecognized in conventional history. Why has this brother remained hidden from mainstream religious narratives? My readings suggested several factors. First, the early church, as it formalized its structure and doctrine, tended to simplify complex family relationships to focus attention on Jesus himself. Second, some of the knowledge this brother possessed about Jesus' teachings on reincarnation, the development of psychic gifts, and the multidimensional nature of the soul was considered too advanced or potentially confusing for the general population of believers. And third, this brother himself chose a path of relative anonymity, content to serve the emerging movement, without drawing attention to his special relationship with its founder. The Akashic records revealed to me that this brother was entrusted with certain teachings about the soul's journey, teachings that aligned with what would later be called the perennial philosophy found across many mystical traditions. These included the understanding that the soul exists beyond a single lifetime, that karma, or cause and effect, operates across these lifetimes, and that the purpose of earthly existence is soul development toward greater consciousness and compassion. In my readings, I often emphasize that Jesus taught the concept of reincarnation, though this teaching was later removed from church doctrine. His brother was one of those who understood and preserved this knowledge. The idea that we have multiple opportunities to learn and grow through various earthly experiences was central to the deeper teachings that Jesus shared with his closest circle, including his blood relatives. The relationship between Jesus and his brother also exemplifies an important spiritual principle I frequently addressed in my readings, that soul connections transcend ordinary family ties. While they were brothers in the flesh, their soul relationship extended beyond that single lifetime. According to the records I accessed, their souls had traveled together through multiple incarnations, sometimes as family, sometimes as friends or teachers to one another. This pattern of souls traveling together through various lifetimes is something I discovered was common for many of us. We reunite with the same soul group across different time periods and circumstances. This brother of Jesus understood something profound that many followers of religion miss, that Christ consciousness is not exclusive to one individual, but is a potential state available to all souls as they evolve. Jesus demonstrated this consciousness in its fullest earthly expression, but his message was that others could follow the same path. The things that I do, ye shall do also, and even greater things than these shall ye do, he promised. His brother witnessed this truth firsthand and carried this understanding forward after Jesus departed the physical plane. The records showed me that this brother was present during some of Jesus' more private moments of communion with the divine. He observed the discipline, the prayer, the meditation practices that Jesus engaged in. These observations formed the basis for spiritual practices that were shared with serious seekers in the early Christian communities, practices aimed at achieving the same Christ consciousness that Jesus embodied. Many of these practices involved forms of meditation, visualization, and energy work that would be familiar to spiritual seekers across various traditions today. One particularly moving scene from the records showed this brother sitting quietly with Jesus under the stars in Galilee, discussing the nature of the soul and its journey. Jesus spoke of how each soul contains a spark of the divine, waiting to be fanned into flame through love, service, and conscious awareness. His brother asked how one could accelerate this awakening. Jesus replied that it begins with recognizing that the kingdom of heaven is already within, not a distant place to be reached after death, but a state of consciousness available in each moment to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. This conversation reflects a central theme in my own readings, that spiritual development is not about reaching for something outside ourselves, but recognizing and manifesting what already exists within. The divine is not separate from us, but is our true nature, awaiting recognition. Jesus demonstrated this truth in its fullest expression, and his brother had the rare privilege of witnessing this unfoldment from its earliest stages. The Akashic records also revealed how this brother struggled at times with his relationship to Jesus. There were moments of doubt, of wondering if his brother was truly who he claimed to be, of grappling with the implications of being related to someone of such spiritual magnitude. These very human reactions make his eventual understanding and acceptance all the more powerful. He came to recognize Jesus' divinity not through blind faith, but through close observation and personal experience, watching how Jesus lived, how he treated others, how he maintained connection with the divine source even in the most challenging circumstances. After the crucifixion, when many followers were disheartened and scattered, this brother became one of those who helped maintain continuity. The records showed him sharing memories of Jesus' early life with the disciples, providing context and deeper understanding of Jesus' teachings based on his unique perspective as a family member. These contributions helped bridge the gap between Jesus' physical presence and the emerging church, ensuring that essential aspects of his message were preserved. The brother of Jesus also had insights into Jesus' relationship with other significant figures in the Gospels. He knew Mary Magdalene well and understood the special spiritual connection she shared with Jesus. According to my readings, Mary Magdalene was one of the most spiritually advanced souls in Jesus' circle, a fact his brother recognized and respected. This brother helped ensure that Mary Magdalene's contributions were valued within the early community, even as patriarchal influences began to diminish women's roles. What is perhaps most remarkable about this brother is how he embodied one of Jesus' core teachings, that true spiritual authority comes not from position or title, but from service. He did not leverage his family connection to claim leadership or special status. Instead, he served quietly, sharing his unique understanding with those who were ready to receive it, living as an example of how Jesus' teachings could be applied in daily life. The records revealed that this brother was also instrumental in preserving some of Jesus' healing methods. He had witnessed Jesus performing healings from an early age and understood that these were not random miracles, but the result of Jesus' perfect attunement with divine forces and energy. Some of the healing techniques involving the laying on of hands, the use of specific prayers, and energy work that I later described in my own medical readings have their roots in these preserved teachings. In my trance state, I could see how this brother carefully instructed certain individuals in these healing practices, emphasizing that the key was not technique alone, but the consciousness behind it, the recognition of the divine life force flowing through all beings, and the removal of blockages to that force. This approach to healing as spiritual alignment rather than merely physical intervention is consistent with what I described in thousands of my medical readings. The relationship between Jesus and his brother illuminates another important aspect of spiritual development, the role of family karma and soul agreements. According to my readings, souls often choose to incarnate in specific family groups to work out karmic patterns and fulfill soul contracts made before birth. Jesus' brother had made such an agreement to incarnate alongside this extraordinary soul, to witness his life and mission, and to help preserve aspects of his teaching for future generations. This soul agreement was fulfilled with remarkable fidelity, though largely outside the spotlight of recorded history. This brother's story reminds us that spiritual greatness often manifests quietly, without fanfare. For each figure who stands at the center of historical attention, there are countless others who serve the same divine purpose from less visible positions. The kingdom of heaven, as Jesus taught, is like yeast that a woman mixes into flour, working invisibly, yet transforming everything it touches. His brother embodied this principle, working behind the scenes to ensure that the spiritual leaven of Jesus' teachings continued to spread. The Akashic record showed me that this brother lived a long life after the crucifixion, eventually traveling to distant lands to share the esoteric aspects of Jesus' teachings with spiritual communities prepared to receive them. These travels took him to places where ancient wisdom traditions already existed, creating bridges of understanding between Jesus' message and other spiritual paths.
This cross-pollination of spiritual ideas helped ensure that the mystical aspects of Jesus' teachings would survive, even as the institutional church focused increasingly on doctrine and authority. Perhaps the most profound lesson from this hidden brother's story is that divine truth cannot be fully contained in any single narrative or tradition. It requires multiple perspectives, multiple witnesses, multiple ways of understanding and expression.
The brother of Jesus provides one such perspective. Intimate yet distinct, familiar yet reverent, bound by blood yet transcending physical relationship, to recognize the Christ consciousness that was his brother's true identity and humanity's true potential. In my thousands of readings, I consistently emphasized that the purpose of spiritual knowledge is practical application, transformation of character and consciousness through daily choices and actions. Jesus' brother exemplified this principle, quietly integrating his extraordinary experiences and insights into a life of service and spiritual growth. He stands as a reminder that witnessing greatness brings responsibility, the responsibility to embody and transmit the truth one has been privileged to observe. The story of this hidden brother also speaks to how spiritual truth is preserved across time, not always through official channels or written texts, but often through living transmission from teacher to student, from those who have directly experienced to those who seek. According to my readings, there exists an unbroken line of this lived transmission from the time of Jesus to the present day, though it often flows beneath the surface of institutional religion, emerging in the lives and teachings of mystics, healers, and spiritual seekers across the centuries. This brings us to a crucial question. If this brother was so important to the story of Jesus and early Christianity, why don't we know more about him from historical sources? The Akashic records revealed several reasons. In some cases, references to him were deliberately minimized to focus attention on Jesus himself. In others, his own desire for privacy and his focus on the esoteric aspects of Jesus' teachings naturally kept him from broader historical recognition. And perhaps most significantly, his role was to preserve a stream of understanding that would flow not through official doctrine, but through mystical experience, a river running underground, nourishing souls prepared to receive deeper truths across the centuries. What does this revelation mean for our understanding of Christianity and spirituality today? It invites us to look beyond literal interpretations and institutional structures to the living essence of Jesus' message. It reminds us that divine truth is often more complex, more nuanced, and more inclusive than our limited human categories can contain. It suggests that alongside the public teaching, there has always existed a more intimate transmission of spiritual knowledge, accessible not through authority or dogma, but through direct experience and inner awakening. The brother of Jesus represents a bridge between the extraordinary and the ordinary, showing how divine consciousness can manifest within the context of human relationships and daily life. His story is a reminder that the sacred and the secular are not separate realms, but interpenetrating dimensions of a single reality. The divine enters the world not by abolishing human connections, but by transforming them from within, turning water into wine, the mundane into the miraculous. In the most profound sense, the hidden brother of Jesus represents a path that each of us is invited to walk, the path of recognizing and responding to the divine as it manifests in our midst, often in the people closest to us, in the ordinary circumstances of our lives. Like him, we are called to witness, to preserve, and to embody the truth we have been privileged to encounter. This is not a burden but a blessing, the opportunity to participate in the gradual awakening of divine consciousness within humanity, a process that unfolds across lifetimes and generations. The records showed that this brother carried within him not just memories of Jesus, but a living connection to the Christ consciousness that Jesus fully embodied. This connection remained active throughout his life, guiding his actions and allowing him to serve as a conduit for the same healing and transformative energies that flowed through Jesus. In this way, he demonstrated what is possible for each soul that recognizes and aligns with the divine presence. What this brother understood, perhaps better than many who would later claim to speak in Jesus' name, was that the message was never about worshiping Jesus as separate from humanity, but recognizing the Christ potential within each soul. The kingdom of heaven is within you, Jesus taught, and his brother witnessed the living demonstration of this truth. He saw how Jesus accessed this inner kingdom through prayer, meditation, compassion, and surrender to divine will. And most importantly, he understood that this path was available to all. The revelation of this hidden brother comes to us now, in this pivotal moment of human spiritual evolution, because we are collectively ready to move beyond limited understandings of spirituality toward a more universal recognition of our divine nature. The veil that has concealed portions of Jesus' life and teachings is gradually lifting as humanity develops the consciousness to receive and integrate these deeper truths. This brother's perspective helps us see Jesus not as a singular anomaly, but as a way shower, one who demonstrated the potential that lies dormant within each soul. As we stand at this threshold of expanded awareness, let us receive this revelation not as mere historical curiosity, but as a living invitation to recognize the divine in our midst, to preserve and embody the sacred truths we encounter, and to serve as bridges between dimensions of understanding. Like the hidden brother of Jesus, we are called to witness greatness, not to worship it from afar, but to recognize it as our own forgotten nature, waiting to be remembered and expressed. The truth about Jesus' brother, preserved in the Akashic records and revealed through my readings, reminds us that the divine story continues to unfold, not just in ancient texts, but in the living experience of souls across time. It invites us to participate in this unfolding, to become not just recipients of spiritual teaching, but embodiments of spiritual truth. The hidden brother has remained in the shadows not to be forgotten, but to emerge at the perfect moment, when his perspective can help illuminate the path toward greater understanding and awakening. As these revelations about Jesus' family expand our understanding, they also bring us full circle to the essential message that divine consciousness is our shared inheritance, that spiritual truth is preserved not just in writings, but in lives lived in alignment with higher principles, and that the greatest miracle is the transformation of human consciousness from separation to unity, from fear to love, from darkness to light. This was the truth that Jesus lived, that his brother witnessed, and that remains available to each soul who chooses to awaken to their divine nature. The journey of spiritual discovery continues, across lifetimes and dimensions, guided by the records that contain all knowledge and the divine spark that illuminates all souls. May this revelation serve not as an endpoint, but as a doorway to deeper understanding, greater compassion, and more authentic embodiment of the Christ consciousness that is our true identity and destiny. The message I, Edgar Cayce, received from the Akashic records about Jesus' brother is ultimately a message about you, about your potential, your divine nature, your role in the unfolding story of cosmic awakening. Like this brother, you are called to witness the divine as it manifests in your life, to preserve the truth you experience, and to embody the consciousness that Jesus demonstrated. This is not distant history, but living invitation, a reminder that the story of divine incarnation continues through each soul that awakens to its true nature. Thank you for journeying with me through this revelation. If these insights have touched something within you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone and value your perspective. Your engagement helps these spiritual truths reach others who may be searching. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel to continue exploring the mysteries of consciousness and spirituality together. Remember, as Jesus himself taught, "Seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened." The greatest discoveries await those who approach with an open heart and willing spirit.